Waitress returns, a lost wallet. Inside is a family photo and a millionaire's business card. Amelia Reed never expected a single shift at her bustling Manhattan diner to unravel her entire world. She thought it would be just another day of hurried coffee refills and weary smiles, an endless cycle of greeting strangers and clearing tables. But then she found a lost wallet tucked beneath a napkin dispenser. A wallet containing a mysterious family photo and a business card belonging to millionaire entrepreneur Grant Harrison. In a heartbeat, Amelia's life took a turn she couldn't have imagined. She had to make a decision quietly, pocket the wallet or return it. Little did she know this one choice would spark a chain of events that would change everything. Amelia Reed was used to the clatter of plates and the hum of conversation echoing against the neon lights of Blue Harbor Diner on East 49th Street. She had been working there for nearly 5 years, long enough to know each scratch on the linoleum floors, the exact time the coffee machine would sputter, and every corner of the vintage jukebox that had been broken since before she started. She grew up 2 neighborhoods away, in a modest apartment shared with her mother, Patricia Reed, and her father, Andrew Reed, until he passed away from a sudden heart attack when she was 15. Amelia's father had taught her about honesty and kindness, about how small gestures could sometimes create the largest ripples. Perhaps that was why she stuck to this job day after day, refusing to turn a blind eye to the oddities that wandered in and out of the diner at all hours. On a balmy summer evening, the diner thrummed with the usual crowd, office workers grabbing a quick dinner before heading to late shifts, college students cramming for exams, couples on low-budget dates. Amelia, balancing 3 plates of steaming food, skillfully maneuvered her way through the maze of tables. She offered her customers a polite smile, but knew she had to keep moving. Tips were her lifeblood, especially given the mounting bills she struggled to pay each month. Darla, her co-worker and friend, manned the cash register with the speed of someone who'd spent a lifetime in the service industry. She shot Amelia a sympathetic grin from across the diner, already sensing her exhaustion. By midnight, they were both usually zombies. But that night, something about the air felt electric, a tension Amelia couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the full moon shining through the windows, or maybe it was just one of those evenings that held a subtle promise of change. She delivered the meals 2 turkey clubs and a grilled cheese to a worn-out couple and their teenage daughter, then ducked behind the counter to refill the coffee pot. That was when she noticed it, a sleek black leather wallet sitting abandoned near the napkin dispenser. She glanced around for its owner, but saw no one lingering. Normally, if someone left a wallet behind, they would come rushing back within minutes. Yet the diner's bell had remained silent. Amelia picked it up, intending to hand it over to her manager for safekeeping, but her manager had already left an hour earlier. A small voice in the back of her mind told her to peek inside. She only wanted to find an ID so she could locate the owner quickly. It was late, and the last thing she wanted was for someone to spend the night frantically searching for their wallet. Slipping behind the counter, she carefully opened the leather folds. Inside, she saw a crisp driver's license with a name that meant nothing to her. At that moment, Grant Harrison. Then she spotted a family photo, the edges slightly worn. It pictured a younger man, clearly the same person as on the ID, standing beside an older gentleman in a wheelchair, and a smiling woman who looked to be in her 50s. The photo exuded warmth and a certain sadness Amelia couldn't place. Tucked behind the license was a business card. Grant Harrison, CEO of Harrison Industries. Harrison Industries, Amelia had read about them. Something about real estate technology, investments, philanthropic endeavors. They were among the top rising conglomerates in New York City. The wallet also held several $100 bills, credit cards, and membership passes to exclusive clubs. Everything in it exuded quiet wealth. Returning a lost wallet was a no-brainer. Her father's teaching still guided her moral compass. Yet the instant she saw the magnitude of the contents, a family photo and a millionaire's business card, she felt something shift in her chest, like fate had just knocked on her door. After her shift ended at 1 in the morning, Amelia sat in the break room, the deserted diner lights clicking off one by one. The wallet weighed heavily in her apron pocket, as though it carried more than just cash and cards. Like it carried a secret or destiny of some sort, Darla poked her head into the room, rubbing her bleary eyes. "You all right, hon? You've been staring at that thing for 10 minutes. Amelia looked up, her cheeks flushing. She handed Darla the wallet. "I found this at table 6. It belongs to some guy named Grant Harrison." "Ever heard of him?" Darla blinked twice. "Grant Harrison, the big-time millionaire. I think I saw him on the cover of Forbes last month. He's been dubbed one of New York's most eligible bachelors." "Filthy rich from what I hear." Amelia's eyebrows shot up. "I had no idea. I just saw his ID and business card. If he's that wealthy, then he's probably got an entire team of people to handle situations like this. Maybe I should call him or something. But it's late," Darla shrugged. "If you want my 2 cents, put it in the lost and found. If it's truly his, he'll come back for it. Or just do the right thing and return it yourself. Maybe you'll get a tip." "It's not about a tip," Amelia said quickly. I don't know. It feels bigger than that." "You and your gut feelings," Darla teased. "All right. Well, I'm out. My feet are killing me. See you tomorrow." After Darla left, the silence of the empty diner pressed in. Amelia quickly scribbled down the contact info on the business card. She would make a call in the morning after she got some sleep. For now, her mind needed rest. But she couldn't help glancing again at the family photo. There was something in the older man's eyes, a sadness or resignation that felt oddly familiar, like the same expression her father had worn when he struggled with his heart condition in the months before passing away. Tucking the wallet into her purse, Amelia flicked off the remaining lights, stepping out into the cool Manhattan air, never suspecting just how drastically her life would be upended by daybreak. Amelia didn't usually sleep in, but after a late-night shift and a lingering sense of unease, she found herself groaning when her alarm blared at 8 in the morning. By habit, she reached for her phone, intending to scroll through social media. Instead, she grabbed the business card from her bedside table. Grant Harrison's name glinted in embossed letters. Below it lay a personal cell number. Her first instinct was to text less intrusive, but what if this was urgent? She dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Each ring hammered a growing anxiety into her chest. A voice finally answered. It wasn't Grant Harrison, though it was a female voice, cool and collected, with a no-nonsense tone that made Amelia feel like she'd just called a corporate hotline. "This is Linda, Mr. Harrison's executive assistant." "May I ask who's calling?" Amelia cleared her throat. "Hi, my name's Amelia Reed. I found Mr. Harrison's wallet at the Blue Harbor Diner last night. I just wanted to get in touch and return it." Linda paused. Amelia thought she heard muffled voices in the background. "May I have your phone number? Ms. Reed, we'll arrange for the wallet to be retrieved." "Sure. But I'd also like to ensure it's returned directly to him, if possible. I noticed there's a family photo inside, and it seemed important." Another pause. "Thank you, Ms. Reed. Let me put you on hold for a moment. Amelia listened to an instrumental track that looped after every 30 seconds, feeding her increasing nerves. She toyed with the edge of the wallet, still in her hand, wondering if she was making this more complicated than it had to be. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Sometimes you have to be persistent if you want to do the right thing. Kiddo. Finally, Linda returned. Mr. Harrison appreciates your call. He asked if you could drop by his office around noon today. I'll send you the address by text. Would that be possible? Amelia hesitated. She was due at the diner for an evening shift. So noon was technically free. Still, the thought of walking into a high-powered CEO's office wearing her only clean sundress made her stomach flop. Yes, that would be fine. Excellent. One more thing. Please bring a form of identification with you. Security will need it upon arrival. It felt so official, so clinical. Amelia ended the call, staring at the phone. A swirl of excitement and dread washed over her. She was just a waitress. She didn't move in elite circles, and she certainly didn't expect to cross paths with millionaires. Yet there she was. By noon, Amelia found herself standing outside the sleek mirrored high-rise of Harrison Industries in Midtown Manhattan. The building soared into the skyline, a testament to wealth and influence. As she walked through the revolving glass doors, she was greeted by a polished lobby of marble floors, minimalist art, and a discreet yet pervasive aura of power. She approached the reception desk, manned by 2 uniformed staff members who barely looked up from their screens. "Amelia Reed here to see Grant Harrison," she said, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. One of them tapped something on his keyboard and glanced at a schedule. "Yes. Ms. Reed, security will escort you to the 35th floor." A tall, broad-shouldered security guard with a tight-lipped smile motioned for Amelia to follow him. They rode up in a private elevator, its glass walls revealing a panorama of the city. Though the view was breathtaking, Amelia's stomach churned. She gripped her purse, the wallet tucked safely inside, trying not to imagine the million ways this could go wrong. The elevator dinged open to a floor that resembled a modern art gallery, more than an office. A sprawling reception area, with minimalist furniture stretched before her. Large floor-to-ceiling windows let in streams of daylight, illuminating abstract paintings on the walls. At a marble reception desk sat Linda. Amelia recognized the voice instantly. Linda lifted her gaze from her computer, her expression poised. "Ms. Reed, thank you for coming." She stood and offered a polite nod before leading Amelia through a set of frosted glass doors into a corridor flanked by private offices. They stopped at a corner suite with double doors. Linda knocked once, then opened it without waiting for a reply. The room they entered was expansive, with glass windows overlooking Midtown. At a massive desk sat Grant Harrison himself, tall, broad-shouldered, immaculately dressed. He exuded a confidence that caught Amelia off guard. He had meticulously styled dark hair, a lightly tanned complexion, and the kind of piercing eyes that seemed to register everything at once. He rose from his seat and extended a hand. "Ms. Reed, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." His voice was smooth, surprisingly friendly. Amelia shook his hand. She noticed his grip was firm, yet not overly forceful, and sat in one of the plush leather chairs. Feeling the need to be direct, she pulled the wallet out. "I wanted to make sure you got this back. I saw your family photo, and I thought it might be urgent." Grant's expression softened as she handed him the wallet. He opened it briefly, checking the contents. When his eyes fell upon the photograph, a flicker of something gratitude, relief, or maybe sadness flickered across his face. "Thank you," he said quietly. This photo is important to me. My father passed away a year ago, and this is the only copy I carry with me." Amelia felt a pang of empathy. "I'm really sorry to hear about your father. Mine passed away, too, when I was a teenager. I know how hard it can be to keep small mementos of them close." Grant exhaled and looked at her thoughtfully. "I appreciate your honesty and your trouble, Miss Reed. Most people would have handed it to the restaurant manager and never thought about it again. You've gone out of your way, and that's commendable." Linda stood near the door, arms folded, projecting an air of efficiency. Grant nodded to her, and she stepped out quietly, shutting the door behind her. "I'd like to thank you," he continued. "Is there anything I can do for you? A reward, perhaps?" She swallowed, flushing at the notion. No, that's not why I returned it. I don't need a reward." His lips curved in a half-smile. "Still, I'd feel better if I offered something. Even dinner or a donation to a charity of your choice." Amelia shook her head politely, but held his gaze. "I'm just happy I could help." Grant leaned back in his chair, studying her with an air of curiosity, as though he couldn't quite figure her out. "Tell me about yourself, Amelia. Where do you work?" She hesitated, uncertain why he was asking. "I'm a waitress at the Blue Harbor Diner, the one on East 49th. I've been there for 5 years." He nodded, seemingly impressed by her directness. 5 years is a long time. You must be good at dealing with people." Amelia offered a faint smile. "I try bills still pile up, though." A flicker of empathy crossed Grant's face. "I remember working odd jobs in college. My father insisted I understand what it meant to earn an honest wage. There's a dignity in it. But that's not what you want forever, is it?" Caught off guard by his personal question. Amelia shook her head. "No, I have some dreams. But life happens." Grant inhaled as though about to say something more, but a soft chime from his phone interrupted. He glanced at the screen and his brow furrowed. "I'm sorry, but I have a meeting soon. A few urgent matters. Let me walk you out." She stood, smoothing her simple sundress, feeling oddly out of place in the polished surroundings. Her father had taught her to carry herself with pride, no matter the context. So she lifted her chin. As they left the office, he handed her a small business card of his own, an embossed card with a personal email and phone number. "If you ever change your mind about dinner, or if you ever need anything, give me a call." Amelia stammered. "A thank you," cheeks flushing. She sensed Linda's curious gaze as she made her way back to the elevator. The entire encounter had lasted less than 15 minutes, but it felt like a scene from a different universe. Was that it? She had done the right thing, returned the wallet, end of story, right? That evening, Amelia worked her shift as usual, but she couldn't shake the memory of Grant Harrison's office, the way he had thanked her, the intensity in his eyes. She found herself lost in thought while wiping down tables which didn't go unnoticed by Darla Girl. "You're somewhere else tonight," Darla teased. "Is it about that wallet? You actually met him?" Amelia nodded absently. "Yeah, he was nice, I guess. Polite, very grateful." She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the business card she had tucked into her apron pocket. "He gave me his personal contact info. Said to reach out if I ever needed anything." Darla raised an eyebrow in genuine surprise. "He gave you his direct line. That's not something that happens every day." "Maybe he's into you," Amelia scoffed, though her heart did a small flip. "I doubt that. He probably does that with everyone who does him a favor. Rich guilt or something." Darla just grinned. "Or maybe it's something else." Their conversation drifted away as a wave of customers came in and Amelia threw herself into her work. Yet that night, as she returned to her apartment, she couldn't stop replaying Grant's words or his demeanor. There had been sincerity in his thank you, a vulnerability when talking about his late father. Sighing, she hung up her apron and sat at her small kitchen table, rummaging for that business card he'd given her. She stared at the number, fighting the temptation to text him, just to say hello. But that would be ridiculous. She was just a waitress, and he was a wealthy CEO the lines of their worlds had crossed only for a moment. The next morning, Amelia was running late, rushing to toss on her uniform, before leaving for work, when her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped her cup of coffee in surprise upon seeing an unknown number flash across the screen. "Good morning, Miss Reed. This is Linda, Mr. Harrison's assistant. Mr. Harrison would like to invite you to a small gathering this evening at the Carnegie Lounge at 8. He believes it would be an opportunity to properly thank you, as well as introduce you to a few people." Amelia read the text 3 times, her heart pounding. Why would Grant Harrison invite her to a gathering with his circle? She found herself typing a polite decline, but something stopped her. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps a sense that fate was nudging her again. Her thumbs hovered over the screen. Before she could overthink it, she typed back, "I'll be there." Her day dragged by in a blur. She finished her afternoon shift early, told Darla she had an appointment, and hurried home to find something to wear. She realized she possessed nothing close to the level of elegance required for a high-end lounge. The best she had was a knee-length burgundy dress with modest sleeves and a square neckline, something she'd worn to a friend's wedding. It would have to do. Later, stepping out of a cab at the Carnegie Lounge, Amelia's nerves gnawed at her insides. The place radiated exclusivity. A red carpet lined the entrance, and velvet ropes guided well-dressed patrons past an imposing doorman. The sign above the door was understated, yet oozed sophistication. She approached the doorman, gave her name, and to her surprise, she was on the list. Moments later, she found herself in a sumptuous lounge of polished wood, low lighting, and live jazz music emanating from a stage. Men in tailored suits and women in designer gowns milled about, sipping cocktails and conversing in hushed tones. Amelia felt like a fish out of water, painfully aware of her department store dress. A hand lightly touched her shoulder. She turned to see Grant Harrison, looking sharp in a tailored navy suit, greeting her with a warm smile. "I'm glad you could make it," he said over the low hum of the room. "Come, let me get you a drink." She allowed him to guide her to the bar, acutely conscious of curious glances from those around them. People recognized Grant, that much was clear. One woman with diamond-studded earrings gave Amelia a thin, appraising look. Amelia tried to ignore it, focusing on Grant's voice as he asked for 2 glasses of champagne, so he said, handing her a flute. "Welcome to my world, albeit just one small corner of it. I host these monthly gatherings for business associates, potential partners, and a few close friends." Amelia nodded, taking in the glittering crowd. "It's impressive. Not exactly a place I frequent." Grant laughed a low, genuine sound. "Me neither. At least not until I inherited most of my father's business dealings. He used to love places like this. I'm more of a quiet dinner kind of guy, but I keep up appearances." She sipped her champagne, deciding it was far too expensive for her palate. "Then why invite me?" He leaned in, his tone intimate. "Because you're honest, Rare. In this world I meet too many who care more about my net worth than who I am. You reminded me that there are good people in New York who do the right thing without expecting anything in return." Amelia felt her cheeks warm. "I was just returning a wallet. Anyone would do the same." His gaze held hers. Believe me, not everyone would. Before she could respond, a tall, slender brunette approached her sequined gown, catching the light. "Grant, darling, you simply must meet Monsieur Lefebvre. He's the investor from Paris I told you about." Grant turned to Amelia. "Excuse me for a moment, I'll be right back." Amelia watched him glide through the crowd, all charm and poise, exuding confidence that came from experience in these circles. She felt a twinge of envy of his ease, his wealth, his knowledge of how to navigate a world so foreign to her. She stood awkwardly near the bar, nursing her champagne, wondering if she should leave after finishing her drink. "Hey there," a voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a man who looked to be in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a warm smile. "I'm John Patterson," he said, offering a handshake. "I'm a friend of Grant's father. Saw you come in with him. Don't think we've met, Amelia." Recognized the name. John Patterson was known for philanthropic projects in New York, particularly for funding educational programs in underprivileged neighborhoods. She quickly introduced herself. John nodded. "Ah, you're the waitress who found Grant's wallet. I heard about that. Good on you. Not many would have gone the extra mile. It wasn't a big deal." Amelia mumbled, embarrassed by all the attention. John smiled kindly. "I admire people like you, Miss Reed. Especially in this city. You find so many who chase a quick buck. It's rare to see genuine integrity. So how are you enjoying the evening?" Amelia glanced around. "It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Feels like another planet." John laughed heartily. "I understand. I came from humble beginnings myself. Truth be told, many of these folks did. But once you reach a certain level, you adapt to the environment. Don't worry, you'll fit in. Just fine." His words put her slightly at ease. Still, she wondered if she truly belonged. As the jazz band transitioned into a lively number, she caught a glimpse of Grant returning to her side. Grant guided Amelia toward a quieter corner of the lounge, away from the main throng of guests. She felt a rush of gratitude as the noise receded. "I see you've met John," he said with a pleased grin. "He's a great man. Mentored my father for years." Amelia nodded. He was very welcoming, unlike some others here. Grant followed her gaze toward a woman, eyeing them suspiciously. "Ah, that's Veronica Hastings. She's an investor, but also a vicious gossip. Don't mind her." The live music shifted to a slow, sultry tune. Grant turned to Amelia, offering a hand. "Dance with me." Her breath caught. She wanted to say no. Her dancing skills were limited to the occasional wedding reception or a night out with friends. But something in his gaze made her hand move before her mind could protest. She set down her champagne and let him guide her to the small dance floor. His arm circled her waist, and she placed a hand on his shoulder. They moved gently to the rhythm, swirling among other couples decked out in designer labels. Amelia felt an odd swirl of emotions, nervousness, excitement, a sense of stepping into an unfamiliar realm. "You know, I still haven't properly thanked you," Grant murmured, his voice just audible over the music. Amelia tried to focus on her steps. "You invited me here. That's more than enough." He smiled. "That's not what I mean. My father was everything to me. Losing him. It's been hard. That photo you returned, it's our last one together. And now," he paused, a flicker of anguish crossing his face. "And now I might lose something else, connected to him." Alarm pricked at her. "Lose what?" He sighed, his arms tensing slightly around her. "Harrison Industries is successful, but there's a hostile takeover attempt in the works. A board member is conspiring with a competitor. My father built this company from scratch, and if I lose control, I lose that legacy. I can't let that happen. Amelia's heart fluttered. I'm sorry. Is there anything you can do? Grant's jaw tightened. I'm trying to gather allies, people willing to invest to trust in my leadership. That's partly why I hold events like this. It's not just about glitz, it's strategy. She absorbed his words, suddenly seeing the lounge in a new light. The pointed smiles, the guarded handshakes, the hushed whispers in corners, they were all part of a grander game, one that determined whether Grant kept his father's life's work. The song ended, and they drifted apart, applause rising from the crowd. Before she could ask more, a group of well-dressed men and women approached, offering pleasantries and wanting Grant's attention. He shot Amelia an apologetic look. Wait here for a moment. She nodded, stepping to the sidelines, as Grant engaged in a round of polite conversation that sounded like chess moves disguised as small talk. She felt out of place again. I should probably go soon, she thought, scanning the room for an exit strategy. That's when a lean, angular man in a charcoal suit approached her with a smirk. I hear you're a waitress, he said, voice dripping condescension. Name's Patrick Hayes. I'm on the board. I'm sure Grant's told you how vital I am to Harrison Industries. The hair on Amelia's neck prickled at his dismissive tone. He's mentioned the board. Yes, she replied evenly. Nice to meet you. Patrick studied her with cold eyes. So what's your angle here? Ms. Reed, you do realize this environment might be above your pay grade. She stiffened. I'm here because I was invited. He laughed softly, a chilling sound, I see. Let me guess. Grant wants to appear benevolent, help the poor waitress who returned his wallet. Word of advice, men like Grant. They enjoy novelty. Don't mistake that for sincerity. Anger flared in Amelia's chest. Grant has been nothing but kind. Patrick waved a hand dismissively. He's always kind until he's not. Just remember your place. You don't belong in these circles. Amelia felt heat crawl up her neck. She had the urge to throw her drink in Patrick's smug face, but she set her glass down on a nearby table instead. Thanks for the unsolicited advice. She spun on her heel and made her way toward the exit, shoulders squared, tears threatening to prick her eyes. She didn't look back to see if Grant noticed her leaving. The last thing she wanted was a scene. Her heart hammered as she hailed a cab, sinking into the back seat, rage and humiliation warring inside her. She barely noticed the city lights rushing by as she fumbled for her phone, ignoring a text from a number she now recognized as Linda's. She just wanted to go home and forget about rich men and their games. By the time Amelia reached her apartment, her phone had buzzed 3 times, all from Linda's number. She sighed, tossing the device onto her couch, then sank into a faded armchair. She stared at the cracks in the ceiling, letting Patrick's sneering remarks replay in her mind. She hated how much they stung. You don't belong here. Maybe he was right. She didn't know when she dozed off, but when she stirred, it was past midnight. She checked her phone out of habit, the last text from Linda. Read, Mr. Harrison would like to speak with you. Please call at your convenience. Frowning, Amelia considered ignoring it, yet for reasons she didn't fully understand, she dialed Linda's number. The phone barely rang once before Linda's voice answered, Press. Reed, thank you for calling back, she said, and Amelia detected relief. Mr. Harrison is here. May I put him on? Fine, Amelia murmured, pulse quickening. Moments later, Grant's voice echoed in her ear. Amelia, thank goodness. Are you all right? She stiffened. I'm fine. Why, he exhaled a low whoosh of air. I saw you leaving in a hurry. I tried to catch up, but Patrick intercepted me. I'm sorry if he said anything to upset you. Her throat tightened. He made it very clear. I don't belong in that world, which is true. Look, Grant. Mr. Harrison, this was all a mistake. First of all, call me Grant, he said, gentler now. Second, Patrick Hayes is complicated. He's been a friend of the family for years, but he's power-hungry. I suspect he's part of the reason I'm facing a hostile takeover. He can be vindictive. I'm sorry he targeted you. Despite her resolve to be calm, she felt tears prick her eyes. I just felt so out of place. I don't need charity or condescension. His voice was soft, sincere. I know, and you should never have experienced that. Please let me make it up to you. Coffee lunch. Somewhere low-key. No fancy crowds. She paused, her heart, a battlefield of conflicting emotions. She didn't want to be naive, but she also found it hard to ignore the note of genuine remorse in his voice. Fine, I'm off tomorrow afternoon. His relief was palpable. Great. Let's meet at Gramercy Park around 2. We can walk-talk, just us. She ended the call feeling both tentative and oddly excited. Setting the phone aside, she dragged herself to bed, uncertain if she was walking toward a chance, a genuine friendship, or stepping into a quagmire of corporate intrigue. The next day, the sun bathed Manhattan in a warm glow, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of summer. Gramercy Park was famously private, surrounded by an ornate fence that required a key, usually given only to local residents. Amelia wondered how Grant intended to get them in. She arrived a few minutes early, wearing simple jeans and a floral blouse, determined to present her authentic self. As she waited by the wrought-iron gate, Grant appeared dressed far more casually than before. Khakis a button down with the sleeves rolled up and loafers. He offered a small smile and produced a key, unlocking the gate. Inside the park felt like a secluded oasis, amid the urban sprawl, manicured lawns, blooming flower beds and benches arranged under the shade of old trees. A few other people wandered about or read on benches, but it was far from crowded. Grant led her to a bench near a bed of bright marigolds. Thanks for meeting me. He began, hands clasped. He seemed more at ease than at the lounge, like he'd shed some invisible armor. Amelia sat beside him, inhaling the floral air. It's okay. I'm not used to that kind of environment. He nodded his gaze, wandering to a statue at the park's center. I understand. I grew up attending these events with my father. The crowds, the schmoozing. I was taught it was normal. But once I stepped out of that bubble, I realized most people don't live like that. His tone was reflective, tinged with sadness. For a moment, Amelia saw a side of Grant that felt raw and reel-free from corporate polish. Patrick's words cut deep. She admitted, I've never had someone speak to me that way. He's a snake, Grant, said voice firm, but he's also a board member. My father trusted him at one point. Now I'm dealing with the fallout. Amelia clasped her hands in her lap. What can you do about this takeover? Grant hesitated. I'm working on it quietly. I need majority support from the board, or a partnership that can dilute Patrick's shares. I have John Patterson in my corner, and a few others. But it's complicated, he sighed. Enough about that. I actually wanted to talk about you. How's your life, Amelia? She blinked, not expecting the shift. My life? It's average. I guess I waitress. I share a small apartment with my mother, but she travels a lot for her job as a home healthcare nurse. My father passed away when I was 15, and Grant placed a hand gently on hers, a comforting gesture. I'm sorry, I really am. She smiled sadly. I'm used to it. But thank you. It's just been a struggle. Financially, I dreamed about going to culinary school, maybe opening my own bakery someday. But well, money gets in the way. A thoughtful look passed over his face. Amelia, you returned my wallet without asking for anything. You've shown kindness, honesty. I want to help. Let me at least sponsor some part of your culinary education. Her eyes widened. That's too much. You barely know me. I know enough, he said, and I want to honor my father by doing good. What better way than helping someone who represents the values he cherished? Emotion welled in her throat. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, he encouraged. You don't have to decide now. She nodded, biting her lip. Okay, I'll think about it. They spent another hour strolling the paths, chatting about their childhoods, favorite foods, places they wanted to travel. It felt strangely normal, two people forging a connection beyond their social differences. Days turned into weeks, and Amelia found herself meeting Grant occasionally, sometimes for coffee, other times for a quick lunch near his office. What began as a tentative friendship grew into something more substantial. They shared stories of loss of childhood, memories of private fears and unspoken hopes. Amelia realized she could talk to Grant about nearly anything, and he genuinely listened. Still a voice in her head nagged, "This can't last." She was a waitress living paycheck to paycheck. He was a millionaire, CEO embroiled in boardroom drama. Their worlds remained fundamentally mismatched, like two puzzle pieces that shouldn't fit. One afternoon, as she was finishing her shift at the diner, she noticed a commotion in the parking lot. Darla rushed inside. Wide-eyed Amelia, "You better come see this." Amelia hurried out, only to see a sleek black town car parked at the curb. Linda Grant's assistant stood by the open passenger door looking out of place amid the battered cars and trash-strewn alley. Ms. Reed, Linda greeted with a tight smile. "Mr. Harrison requests your presence. Immediately." Amelia's stomach flipped. What's going on? Linda's composure cracked slightly, revealing worry. It's about his mother, Mrs. Margaret Harrison. She's been hospitalized. Grant asked me to bring you. Alarm rippled through Amelia. Without hesitating, she tossed her apron into Darla's hands and slid into the back seat of the car. They arrived at a private hospital uptown, where Linda guided Amelia to a quiet waiting room on the 10th floor. The walls were painted a calming lavender, but the tension in the air was anything but soothing. Grant stood near a window, his suit jacket thrown over a chair, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He looked distraught. As soon as he saw Amelia, he crossed the room in quick strides and enveloped her in a tight hug. She felt his heart hammering. "Thank you for coming," he whispered, voice rough. She returned the hug gently. "Of course, what happened?" He pulled back, running a hand through his hair. She fainted in her apartment and hit her head. "Doctors say it's a possible stroke, complicated by a heart condition. She's had for years. I should have insisted she live with me, or at least kept a closer eye. I'm her only family now, and I—" His voice broke. Amelia rested a hand on his arm. "She'll be okay. The doctors here are the best, right?" He nodded, forcing a swallow. "Yes, but it's touch and go right now. They're running tests." They waited together, every minute, feeling like an hour. Eventually, a doctor emerged explaining that Margaret Harrison had stabilized, but required surgery to relieve pressure on her brain. Grant's face paled, but he nodded resolutely, signing the forms. During the wait, Amelia offered quiet support, fetching coffee, holding his hand, doing whatever she could. She barely knew Mrs. Harrison, but seeing the terror in Grant's eyes stirred a fierce protectiveness in her. After a few hours, a nurse informed them that Margaret had made it through surgery, but remained unconscious. They could visit briefly in the ICU. Amelia followed Grant, feeling a knot of nerves tighten in her gut. She wasn't family. She had no right to be there yet. Grant silently led her in. Margaret was hooked up to monitors, pale beneath a web of tubes. Her face looked more fragile than in the photo. Amelia had glimpsed in the wallet. Grant hovered at her bedside. His eyes brimming with tears, he refused to let fall. Amelia's heart ached. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder as he spoke softly to his mother, voice cracking. They lingered only a few minutes before a nurse ushered them out. The hallway felt cold, a sterile hush broken by distant beeping machines and hushed voices. Grant slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Amelia lowered herself beside him, placing an arm around his shoulder. "She'll pull through," she said, though she had no idea if that was true. He lifted his head, eyes red. "I can't lose her too. Not now." Amelia squeezed his hand. In that moment, she realized the depth of her feelings for him, an empathy that went far beyond casual friendship. She wasn't sure if it was love, but it was certainly more than mere concern. Over the next week, Amelia juggled work while spending every spare moment at the hospital with Grant. Margaret remained in a critical yet stable condition. Grant rarely left her bedside, but once or twice he was forced to attend urgent business meetings. Patrick Hayes, the board member, was apparently ramping up the takeover efforts, using Margaret's hospitalization as a chance to sow doubt among other stakeholders about Grant's leadership. One afternoon, Grant confided in Amelia Patrick's playing dirty. "He's suggesting my family's health crisis is a liability for the company. He wants to vote me out as CEO." "That's horrible," Amelia exclaimed. "Isn't there something you can do to stop him?" Grant rubbed his temples. "I'm trying to secure a partnership with an overseas investor. If I can show the board a stable infusion of capital and strong leadership, I can override Patrick's influence. But I need more time, and my mother's input was crucial, but she's not able to sign anything right now." Amelia's heart twisted. She wished she could help, but she lacked the resources or knowledge to fight corporate battles. "Is John Patterson any help?" Grant nodded. "He's trying, but Patrick is manipulative. I worry about those who might side with him for personal gain." Just then, as if summoned by ill will, Patrick Hayes strode into the hospital corridor. Spotting Amelia and Grant, he made a show of glancing at his watch. "Grant, sorry to find you here, but you've been dodging my calls. We need to talk about tomorrow's board meeting." Grant's jaw clenched. "Now's not a good time." Patrick's gaze flicked to Amelia with thinly veiled contempt. "You have time for your friend, but not for business. That could cost you your position. Interesting priorities." Before Amelia could retort, Grant stood, fists clenched. "Watch your tone. We can discuss company matters in my office tomorrow morning." Patrick cocked his head. "Very well. But don't expect sympathy from the board just because your mother is ill. Emotions don't outweigh corporate responsibilities." With that, he turned and strolled away, leaving a tense silence in his wake. Amelia let out a shaky breath. What a vulture! Grant nodded, eyes filled with weary determination. He won't stop until he gets what he wants. Early the next morning, Amelia was startled to see a text from Linda asking her to come to Grant's office. Something about urgent support for a meeting. Confused but concerned, she threw on a professional-looking outfit. She rarely had cause to wear black slacks and a white blouse, and hurried to Harrison Industries. Security waved her up without question. This time, she found Linda outside Grant's office, looking uncharacteristically flustered. "Thank goodness." Linda whispered, "Grant's in the board meeting with Patrick and the others right now. They're on a short break. He asked me to bring you Amelia's heart, hammered. But what can I possibly do?" "I'm not entirely sure," Linda admitted. "But Grant insists you being there matters," summoning courage she didn't feel. Amelia followed Linda down the hall. Inside the grandiose boardroom, a half-dozen men and women sat around an imposing table. Some turned their heads as Amelia entered, curiosity and skepticism flitting across their expressions. Patrick Hayes leaned back in his chair, arms folded, his lips twisting in a sneer. Grant stood at the head of the table, exuding confidence tinged with desperation. He gestured for Amelia to stand beside him. She glanced at him, uncertain, but he gave a minuscule nod, a silent trust passing between them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Grant began, "we're here to discuss the future of Harrison Industries. Patrick has raised concerns about my capability to lead, citing my mother's health and so-called inexperience. But let me remind you all, I've dedicated my life to this company, learned from my father, grown our portfolio. I stand by my record, and I'd like to share something personal, something that demonstrates the values I intend to uphold: integrity, loyalty, compassion." Amelia swallowed her cheeks, heating as all eyes shifted to her. Grant continued explaining briefly how Amelia had found his wallet and returned it without expecting a reward. How that act of honesty had reminded him why his father built the company, to make life better for people, to foster trust. He spoke with such earnest conviction that Amelia felt tears rise. Though she blinked them back, "This is what I want Harrison Industries to stand for." "Grant," said, voice firm, "we treat our employees, our partners and our clients with respect, fairness and a willingness to help." Patrick rolled his eyes. "A touching story, but irrelevant. We're discussing corporate stability, not moral anecdotes." Grant lifted his chin. "Morality is very relevant, Patrick. Our brand depends on the trust of our investors and the public. We lose that, we lose everything. My father believed that I believe that." Several board members nodded thoughtfully, their expressions softening. Amelia realized then that her presence wasn't about business acumen. It was about reminding them of the humanity behind the corporation. Patrick's face twisted in anger. "So you're pulling on heartstrings, using your father's memory, parading this waitress around for sympathy. Transparent tactic." Amelia's anger flared. She stepped forward before she could second-guess herself. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because Grant Harrison is a man who values honesty enough to meet someone like me, someone he owes nothing to, and treat me with dignity. If that's how he treats a stranger, imagine how he treats his employees, his clients, and his partners." A hush fell over the room. Then one board member, a middle-aged woman in a smart navy suit, cleared her throat. "Patrick, you've been pushing for a vote of no confidence. Before we proceed, I'd like to hear more about your alternative plan. I trust Grant. He's proven himself. What do you bring to the table besides criticism?" Patrick's features hardened. "I bring a more aggressive expansion strategy. One that doesn't hinge on feelings. Business is about results, not anecdotes. You want a figurehead? Fine, keep Harrison. You want profit? I can deliver." The tension in the room was palpable. Grant took a breath. "I propose we delay the vote until my mother recovers. She is also a significant shareholder and deserves a say." A murmur of agreement rippled among the board, except for Patrick, who scowled. The board decided to meet again in 2 weeks, giving Grant time to secure investors and hopefully letting Margaret recover enough to participate. When the board meeting concluded, the atmosphere was still tense, but Grant had won a reprieve. As they left the building, Amelia breathed a sigh of relief. "You were incredible in there," Grant said, taking her hand. "Thank you." She managed a shaky laugh. "I don't know if it helped, but I had to say something." He squeezed her hand, eyes shining with gratitude, and something else that made her heart skip a beat. "You did more than help. You reminded them. We're not just numbers." They stood in the lobby, neither wanting to part. Finally, Grant led Amelia to a quiet corridor, near a large window overlooking the city. Without warning, he drew her into a gentle hug. She melted into him, closing her eyes, as she felt his heartbeat echoing her own. "I'm sorry for dragging you into all this corporate mess," he murmured against her hair, "but I can't deny how glad I am that our paths crossed." She pulled back slightly, meeting his gaze. "Me too," she whispered. Her breath caught as he leaned in and pressed his lips to hers, a soft, tentative kiss that felt like a question and an answer all at once. When they broke apart, she could barely form words. The hum of the city outside the glass felt distant, irrelevant. Here in this moment, it was just them. The next few days saw a flurry of activity. Grant scrambled to finalize a deal with an overseas investor. John Patterson flew in from a trip abroad to lend support, and Margaret remained unconscious, but slowly improving in the hospital. Amelia tried to stay focused on her own life, her shifts at the diner, her mother's occasional visits, but she was drawn deeper into Grant's orbit. She found herself fielding calls from Linda about scheduling or picking up documents Grant needed. She wasn't an official employee, but she felt part of the team and maybe part of Grant's life in a deeper sense. One afternoon, as Amelia visited Margaret's hospital room, she found Patrick Hayes there too. He stood by the bed wearing a solemn expression. She hesitated in the doorway, wondering what he was doing. Then he turned, and his eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" he snapped. "I could ask you the same," Amelia countered, anger simmering. He huffed. "Margaret was like a second mother to me when I was younger. Before you assume the worst, let me remind you, I've known this family far longer than you have. Ms. Reed." Amelia didn't move. "If you care about her, why are you trying to destroy her son?" Patrick's mouth hardened. "I'm not destroying him. I'm preserving what his father built. Grant has too much heart, too little ruthlessness. That's not how you thrive in this arena. Maybe it's time this arena changed." Amelia shot back. He moved closer, an edge in his voice. "Let me give you one final warning. Walk away from Grant. If you really care about him, you'll see that he's not cut out for this. He'll drag you down with him." She refused to flinch. "I think you're underestimating him and me." Patrick shook his head. "You know nothing." Then his eyes darted toward Margaret. "If she wakes up, she'll see reason. She'll side with me." Amelia's expression hardened. "I doubt that." He brushed past her, leaving the room without another word. Amelia let out a shaky exhale, her emotions churning. Stepping to Margaret's bedside, she gently took the older woman's hand. "Hang in there," she whispered. "Your son needs you." 2 weeks passed in a blur of negotiations and hospital visits. Gradually, Margaret improved enough to regain consciousness, though her recovery was slow. When she finally woke, Grant was at her side, tears shining in his eyes. "Mom," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Don't try to talk yet. Just rest." But Margaret managed a faint smile. When she glanced around, noticing Amelia in the corner, she smiled more warmly, beckoning her closer. "You're the girl who found Grant's wallet," she murmured, voice weak but kind. Amelia stepped forward. "Yes, Mrs. Harrison. I'm so glad you're awake." Margaret's gaze flickered with understanding. "Thank you for taking care of my son. He needs good people around him." Amelia blushed, nodding. "I'm happy to be here." Soon doctors and nurses swarmed the room for checkups. In the hallway, Grant took Amelia's hand. "She remembers you from the photo," he explained, voice thick with emotion. "I've told her about us." The warmth in his eyes made her pulse quicken. "Us." He smiled, brushing his thumb across her cheek. "If you'll have me." "Amelia Reed, I'd like there to be an us." Her chest brimmed with an inexplicable joy. "Yes," she whispered, "I'd like that." The day of the rescheduled board meeting arrived. Margaret insisted on attending, via video conference from her hospital bed, determined to have her voice heard. Grant, looking the picture of calm authority, in a tailored suit, entered the boardroom with Amelia at his side, this time in an official capacity, as his personal advisor, an informal title, but it signaled his trust. Patrick Hayes was already seated, seething. John Patterson was there as well, along with the rest of the board. After the formalities, they moved to the central agenda, the vote on Grant's position, as CEO. Grant stood at the head of the table. "I've secured a partnership with Meiji Tech, a Japanese firm specializing in green energy solutions. They're prepared to invest significantly, given Harrison Industries' track record under my leadership. This partnership will expand our reach into sustainable initiatives, honoring my father's vision of responsible growth." He clicked a remote, pulling up slides with financial projections. Amelia watched from a chair near the back, nerves tight. The numbers looked good. Better than she had expected. John Patterson vouched for the credibility of Meiji Tech, praising Grant's work. Then came Patrick's turn. He tried to poke holes in the plan, questioning the cost of going green, but the board seemed swayed by Grant's proposals. And then Margaret's face appeared on the large video screen. "Members of the board," she said, voice still frail but resolute, "I'm proud of my son's integrity and vision. My husband, the founder, believed in innovation and giving back to the community. Grant has my unwavering support, and I'll be voting in favor of his leadership." Patrick looked ready to explode, but he put on a veneer of calm. The vote commenced a show of hands. Amelia held her breath. One by one, hands rose in favor of Grant. A few hesitated, but when Margaret's face flashed on the screen, they voted for Grant too. In the end, Patrick found himself in the minority. The motion to affirm Grant as CEO passed overwhelmingly. A wave of relief swept the room. Patrick scowled but said nothing, snapping his briefcase shut and stalking out. The remaining board members offered polite congratulations, then shuffled away. Grant turned to Amelia, eyes shining. "We did it." She rushed into his arms. John Patterson clapped them both on the back. "Congratulations, you two. Harrison Industries is in good hands." In the following days, Margaret's health continued to improve. She was transferred out of ICU, and Grant spent his nights at the hospital, reading her business updates and fussing over her dietary restrictions. Amelia often joined them, bonding with Margaret over stories of the late Mr. Harrison, discovering shared passions for cooking and charity work. Patrick Hayes quietly resigned from the board, citing personal reasons. Behind the scenes, rumors claimed he was under investigation for shady financial dealings. The threat of a hostile takeover receded. One evening, Grant took Amelia back to Gramercy Park, the very bench where they'd shared so many stories. This time he had a small box in his pocket. With a mixture of nerves and excitement, he lowered himself onto one knee, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Amelia Reed," he said softly. "I know this is sudden and we're from different worlds, but you've shown me what love, honesty, and loyalty mean. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision. She didn't care about the stares of the few passers-by in the park, or about any difference in their social status. She only knew she loved him. "Yes," she whispered, laughing through her tears. He slipped the ring onto her trembling finger, and they shared a tender kiss that felt like coming home. They chose to keep the ceremony small, just a few close friends. Darla practically squealed when she heard, and family, including Margaret, who arrived in a wheelchair, but wore a radiant smile. John Patterson attended, offering a toast that captured everyone's hearts. To the union of honesty and fortune, proof that true wealth lies in character. In a tearful speech, Grant credited Amelia for restoring his faith in people. Amelia thanked Grant for helping her apply to culinary school. She'd decided to accept his sponsorship, not as a handout, but as an investment in her future. Patrick Hayes was nowhere to be seen, although rumors swirled that he was under legal scrutiny for embezzlement. No one missed him. As they left the reception hand in hand, Amelia couldn't help reflecting on how a simple twist of fate, a lost wallet on a night shift, had changed their lives so dramatically. She thought of her father, Andrew Reed, and how he'd always said, "You never know what's on the horizon." It turned out he was right, and that, dear viewers, is the remarkable journey of how a kind-hearted waitress and a troubled millionaire found love, hope, and new beginnings through the simple act of returning a lost wallet. Their story reminds us that honesty can open doors we never knew existed, and that sometimes destiny has bigger plans for us than we can ever imagine. From the bustling hustle of a Manhattan diner to the lofty heights of a corporate boardroom, Amelia and Grant bridged two vastly different worlds, proving that compassion can triumph over greed. If this heartwarming, drama-filled tale struck a chord in your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with friends who could use some inspiration, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramas and uplifting stories. Your support helps us continue bringing stories of hope, love, and second chances to light. Thank you for watching.